Running the command will say cloning into my first repository, and then it will essentially do a pull immediately when the clone has been completed. So if I do an ls, I'll see my first repo here, and I can see that it came with readme.md. If I do a git remote, I can see that my origin has also automatically been set up. Let's look at updating some changes to our repository now that it's been created. So regardless of whether this repository was set up using clone or using initialize, I'll be able to make changes to the files and post my changes to GitHub using command line. So the first thing I want to do is I want to edit my README file. I'll use my subl command, and I'll just open the whole folder to make it easier. This opens readme.md, and I'll add some text. So now that I've saved my file, I'll use terminal to stage these changes and push them up to the server. I'll use my git add command, and I'll use the -A flag to commit all files, and using git status allows me to see that readme.md has been modified and it is ready to commit. So I'll do another commit using the -M flag, added I'll run that command. From here we can see that one file has changed. If I run git status, I can see that there's nothing to commit. My working directory is clean. So I'll do a git push, and this will push my changes to my first repo.git. Over on our GitHub page, we can see that our file was updated a minute ago, and we have some content in README. This is just a helpful thing that GitHub does by showing us the contents of our README markdown file below so that we can have some sort of introductory text or instructions on how to use our project. Let's say that I'm working on a project with multiple users. In this case, we'll say that GitHub itself is another user because it allows us to edit files within their system. So I'll just go in here and edit this file. And I'll commit those changes. At my root directory, we can see that I've committed some changes and I've added some text to the README using GitHub's editor. Now this has upped us to 3 commits so far. And if I navigate back to my file system, I can see that the README file still has the content from before a commit from GitHub. Now this is more likely to happen when we're working on a multi-user project, so we want to make sure that before we start editing any files, we get the most recent version. So in terminal, I'll navigate to my folder and I'll run the git pull command. This will show us that it found some new commits to pull down, and README had a couple changes. One file was changed, and now if we go back to our editor, we can see I've added some text to the README using GitHub's editor. So it's very important for you to run git pull before you start working on any of your files, especially if you're working with other users or you're working between multiple machines. GitHub is a way to keep track of things, but we have to actually use the git commands to make sure that our local repositories stay in sync.